I want to jump in and I want to ask you about that path to Fox News, because I think people are very curious about how you go from the military into Fox News, into being on so many shows, and then Fox Nation, all the shows there, the multiple books, latest one. Like, this was on the New York Times list for a while.
Yeah, it was 9 weeks. It was number Amazing. 1 for 2 weeks in a row. So yeah, I mean, you know how it goes. They want every excuse to make sure you're not on the list. So it has to blow it away in order to make it, let alone be number 1, for sure.
That's right. You have to make sure that they can't ignore you on that list.
Too big to rig.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, Princeton and Harvard, I mean, come on.
Well, in all fairness, I have mailed my Harvard degree back.
I saw that.
I mean, listen, I was a achievement chaser like everybody else. What's the best school that the world tells you is the best education that you can get into? I actually I'd never heard of Princeton until I was a senior. I really only heard of them in the NCAA basketball tournament. My dad was a basketball coach, so I grew up playing nothing but basketball. I thought I was going to be in the NBA till I was 20, and even when I sat 2 years on the bench in college, I thought, man, I'm going to be a comeback story. Yeah. So I almost went to Army. It was Army or Princeton. Princeton had a better basketball team, so that's why I went there. So don't think I'm some, academic, that was all secondary. Thankfully, I learned a few things, ran into some great conservative professors there. And then Harvard was just horrible. I got dumber. I mean, there was no part of that experience. I was a graduate student. It was a school of governments. It was all government, all climate change, all nonsense. So that one was easy to send back. Yeah.
But you'd been out of Princeton for a while. Did you go to Harvard later after your time in the military?
I did. Undergraduate, I did ROTC at Princeton. There were 3 of us in the mighty Tiger Battalion. Wow. And then I took about, I think it was, 03. Yeah, basically 8 or 9 years. I deployed. I was in Gitmo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Yeah. Actually, I did my first year at Harvard, and then I deployed for 2 years. And then I went back and finished my second year at the Kennedy School.
Oh, wow. I wonder what it would have been like if you'd gone right from Harvard into Kennedy School instead of having that time overseas to experience what you did. And then
correct. That was the real education, Jack. That was the real moment when you found yourself, where you understood human nature, fear, courage, love, all the deepest and rawest emotions that change you and forge you. I'm glad I didn't go straight to Harvard. I probably would have been, who knows what, compliant and complicit with their nonsense.
Well, I doubt that. But were you at Princeton on 9/11?
I was. Yep.
Oh, wow. What do you remember about that day?
I was going down to basketball practice. I'll never forget, and riding my bike. And we got down there, and the coach just said, "Hey, practice is canceled. A plane's hit the tower." And so we pedaled back up to our room as fast as we could. Turn on the one. We just started the year, so we didn't even have a TV set up. Our neighbor did, and yeah, I watched second tower fall. And I was in ROTC at that time, but I'd only been in for a couple of months. But that was a real validator, obviously. Hey, I'm glad I joined. I don't know what's about to happen next, but we'll be a part of it. And it was New Jersey, so a lot of coaches and people that we knew people. I didn't know anyone directly that day, but a lot of kids on our campus did. So but it was amazing. Even within a few days, there was the protests on campus of the Blame America First crowd made their way out, no war, all that. So a lot of the strands we see really radically on our television screens right now, they were there, 20 years ago. They just weren't as rabid as they are today.
Oh, wow. Because I was deployed when it happened. We were in Guam at the time, so it was around midnight. But I don't remember, because we didn't have TVs everywhere there, or when we deployed soon thereafter, we didn't have TVs that were showing those protests. So that wasn't on my radar that right afterward that there were protests.
It was, it's not as if kids were running around with signs saying, go Al-Qaeda. It was just, There were editorials, there were meetings, there were speakers, there were small gatherings of very anti-war, anti-America. Like maybe we kind of did something to them to deserve this kind of sympathy. It was definitely there.
Wow. Interesting to see.
There's a lot in writing, because I ran a conservative publication. I wasn't yet the publisher of it, but I would later become that. And there were a lot of back and forth we had with the students in the Daily Princetonian, where I would write, my roommate would write, and then they would write back and we would write. So it was sort of a defend America versus blame America pretty early on.
Man, and then so you finish up your time at Princeton, and during that time at ROTC, does that count as your OCS, or do you have to go to another couple month OCS thing after that?
to go to a couple. You have to go to what was called an advanced camp. It sounds like a nice camping trip. It was 8 weeks in between my junior and senior year, so 2 months. So you do the ROTC experience. You go to your advanced camp. I recall it being 8 weeks. Maybe it was 6 or 7. I don't know exactly what it was. And then you graduate out of that, and you're that's how you get your slotting as a senior. That's how you get your preference for your branch. All those things that matters a lot there. And then once you graduate, you go to your infantry officer basic course. So that's when I went to my IOBC.
And that's where you're with people from service academies, from people from regular OCS,
Correct.
and everybody goes there.
So I joined with a National Guard contract. So National Guard, active duty, it didn't matter. Everybody's in the same course.
Yeah. Do you do Iraq first, or do you go to Afghanistan, or you do Gitmo first?
I did the Gitmo, the longest tour of my life tour.
That is wild that you did that first.
Yeah. I mean, it was in support of OEF, right? Mm-hmm. And just like the Tim Walz deployment to Italy, I could always say I was an OEF veteran from that. Yeah. So there were 700 guys in 04 and 05 who've been pulled off the battlefield at Gitmo. We thought military tribunals and commissions were coming. So we were not the MPs inside the wire. We were outside the wire, towers, gates, TCPs, quick reaction force. We accompanied when they go to the airfield and back. And then we were going to be the security for these commissions that never got off the ground because of left-wing lawyers and all this other nonsense. But it was, I'll tell you this, I don't know if you've ever been to Gitmo or
I passed through once on the way into Haiti in 04 when the Aristide thing happened. So it was part of that. So we staged somewhere else, and then my memory is that we were in Gitmo either before or after for some reason. But I didn't go into like the prison area. I didn't go into the confined.
Well, that's what I'm. Hopefully, you're at the naval base side. Probably. The mind bender of the whole year. So we're on deployment on the other side on the far side of the post where no one ever goes, living in tin cans, guarding Islamists, with paying 99 cents a minute to call on AT&T cards. I mean, we may as well have been in Afghanistan or Kuwait as far as distance, but 10 miles on the other side of the island is a naval duty station. So guys are deployed with their wives. There's a school, there's a PX, there's restaurants, there's nightclubs, there's bowling alleys. So they're having a hell of a time. It's the best tour they've ever had for a year. And we are racked and stacked in tin cans, guarding Islamists with no way to get out. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where it was a long year. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
12-hour shifts, day on, night to day. And at least there was a little bit of booze, but you can imagine how well that played sometimes.
Yeah, that is brutal.